defend the low hooks now. You thought the last section was short and sweet? Okay, well this is going to put you into sugar shock right here. All we have to do against these low hooks, two ideas. We're going to do forearm blocking, we're going to do step back. Doesn't matter whether it's the lead hook or the rear hook. The forearm is already in play. I don't even have to turn the body with it. When he throws that lead hook, bang, right there. Rear hook, just back and forth. You get the idea, you're already covered up. If we're close enough for this low hook, because we realize, look at this is not a long range shot to throw. So once I'm close enough to be hit with that lead hook, we know that I've moved to the close range stance, which means closing up, bending in, and the elbow's already in proper positioning. Not a whole lot to do from there. Of course, once you get inside, you realize he's banging away at your body. You've tried to counter the end fight. It's not worked out too well. Then it's probably time to do the step back, which we already know he throws that low lead hook, and we're gone. We'll do one more time. And you're gone. That's it. Forearm blocking, stepping back for the low lead hooks. There's nothing else to play with there. What we will talk about now are how to defend against some elbows. This is the only portion of the unorthodox arsenal, the dirty arsenal, the dirty tricks arsenal that we're going to give you some actual counters to. And the reason is not because there's not counters to the other material out there, the hacksaws and the hammers and such. It's just if you will take the time to pay attention to some of all the hacksaws, the hammers, the axe blows, and so on and so forth, you realize all of these shots will come along a predefined angle. Like whenever I do, let's say a back hammer here, this is basically coming in the same angle as this my rear hook. He can apply all these same defenses. So all you have to do is a little bit of intelligent creativity. Take a look at the unorthodox arsenal and define which angle is traveling on, and then go through the orthodox defensive arsenal and see which one of these will mix and match and work together. At this point, I totally trust your intelligence to put that sort of thing together. Now the elbows, since they can be so quick, so powerful with such a whip on them, I'm going to give you a few different ideas to play with. We're going to give you some ideas that we play with on some material we call a defensive shell or armor plated. Repeat some of that material, plus put a few tweaks on top of it, and hopefully make this work out a little bit tighter for you. Now the elbow, you can do just like we did against the jab and the cross. You can treat these, on these horizontal elbows, you can treat these as if they're straight shots, and you can just do a catch with them. So if he throws this lead elbow, I can use my lead hand and smack directly into the elbow, as if I was giving him a focus pad. That's not what I'm thinking about doing. I'm not saying, hey, here's the target for you to hit. He's looking for this, and I give him that. I can use the lead hand, or I can use the rear hand to stop up with it. Either one will work. Now you're going to find though, because the angle is coming in such a powerful whipping tool, usually you're going to use right versus right and left versus left. It is possible to change that up. I'm not going to tell you not to do it, but you can work it both ways. But you're going to find this works fairly well. When he throws this elbow, crossing it over works fairly well. So you just get the idea of just getting this catching positioning. Now there is a drill, kind of a Baroque drill. It's sort of a flow drill, like we use counterpunching flow drills. There are elbow flow drills that you can find in other arts, the Indonesian arts and a lot of the Filipino arts. And this is pretty much a mirror, I understand, of one of those drills. But it's, I think it's enough to move through when you're playing the game to have your partner throw some elbows and stuff, and you can stop these sorts of things up with your catching. And have, when you start doing prearranged combinations, doing jab, catch, block against the cross, catch against the elbow, that should take care of your defense, but you can do a standard just catching, a catch flow drill with it. I catch his elbow in my same side hand. I'm going to come underneath and move this arm out of the way. I'm going to pat on the back of this arm and then deliver my own elbow. He repeats this on the other side. He kind of whips that through. Bang. You see, this drill we're doing right now has a very artificial look to it because it is artificial. This sort of thing is not what you're going to find in a fight. Now, you can throw elbows tit for tat where you're going, I'm going to leave this running in case you decide to pick up the shell of this drill. You could switch sides with it. I'm going to leave it on this side so we can see what's going on. You can play with the drill initially. And then I would say after your three-minute rounds, you feel good with it. I'm going to tell you throw it away. Because you're never going to play it this way. It's never going to be, he throws an elbow and I catch it. It's a good time for me to throw an elbow. If I really did catch an elbow right here, it's time for me to probably shoot low. Shoot on this guy, bang the body with the hands, step outside, realize his inside fight has gotten deadly serious on me with the elbows here. This starts becoming like a razor fight on the inside range. I either need to disengage or change up my tools. I would rather play catching the elbows out at this range, playing here. So, for example, he throws a jab, give me a jab, I might catch here, gives me a cross, I might cover in that, he gives me jab, cross, elbow, very slow, he's going to be catch, cover, catch with his hand. I'd rather see you catching these things in more of a realistic context. It's still prearranged like that other drill, but less of an artificial construct. You can also pad up on the elbow. You can lift on the elbow. Depends on if your hands are in a down relationship. On all these catches, it presumed my hands were in a nice up cage position. But sometimes we're in close and tight, and I got my hand cheated down in a way I don't want to be cheated down, but to save myself, I'll pat up on that elbow. Hopefully it will move past the target. Also, a lot of fear and respect I have for it means I'm going to start slipping to the outside of the shot at the same time. So as the elbow comes in, my hand is already cheated down. Again, it's cheated down. I don't want to fight this way, waiting for this shot. I might have just thrown something and thrown here, and I went, oh shit, here comes this elbow, trying to get it out of the way. You can do the same sort of artificial drill with this. He throws that elbow, I can lift, move it, come here. He can lift up underneath it. Again, we'll just keep artificial construct going on. Lifting. Again, you can play with this for the 3-minute round and throw it away. Go back and make these things real for yourself. So for example, he gives me a jab, I might catch this, he might give me the cross, a cover, let's say we get a lead hook, I might give a cross glove on this sort of thing, and over here he's gonna come in with this elbow, and this elbow this time, I might have to lift up underneath it. I would rather see you mix and match using the flow drill concept. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. Hardly encourage you to run back to ABCs of NHB Volume 1 to really put more creative, realistic drills together than the artificial ones I kind of demonstrated. But even with that artificial one there, you can still mix and match it. He throws the elbow, we can do that catching drill with it, and you can switch it off any time to the lift drill with it. And some people spend a lot of time playing with this sort of drill. I'm not saying it's incorrect, but I'm saying there's more valuable ways to use your time. Once you understand how the catch and the lift works, move off to those. Here's one more way to counter out the cross elbow, the standard elbow. I showed you so many variations of the elbow in the illegal material with the diagonals and ups and such. You're primarily going to see this cross elbow and some up elbows. Up elbows, really, they're such an inside fighting tool. If you stay caged up, you should be fine. Or you can start patting your hand on top of it. But also against this cross elbow that's coming in, you have the opportunity just to up elbow into it. So we're going to do it very slow. As that elbow comes in, I just rise my elbow into it. So even if he's looking for here, this elbow eats that elbow and stops it. And I'm not going to cross over with it because you'll see if I have my right versus right, I've got nothing to do to stop this elbow or if he's throwing a punch on this side. I need to make sure I stay in the same side. So it's going to be left versus right, right versus left, vice versa. So that comes in, up with the elbow. He throws this elbow, up with the elbow, up with the elbow. It's that same brushing the hair. I'm just throwing an offensive up elbow into his cross elbow. Again, slowly. We're not throwing these all out because the point of the elbows would start playing hell with his forearm. So this elbow and this one. It's here, up, again, up. Get the idea. So the catching, the lifting, you can do the up elbows. I would recommend mastering the catching of the elbow. The lifting is your fallback, and then learning how to combine that more with the boxing and create a flow drill out of it that more mimics what the real fight is going to feel like rather than an artificial construct where you're just going tit for tat forever and ever. We're going to talk a little bit about aggressive defense. We've got two ways to be aggressive with our defense. We to some degree we talked about that when we start doing some downward chops against the uppercuts, or we did the stop or post against the head, wherever he was throwing the low jab, the sorts of things that make people pay a little bit for even trying to hit you. Now these on our aggressive defense, we're going to show you what's called pickoffs or killing the arms. This takes that aggressive defense idea and kind of ups the ante a little bit. Now burying this after the standard defensive material, because a lot of people see this sort of thing and get, oh, this is really cool. I'm going to emphasize and know this because it's got a nice cool flavor to it. It's really spicy, but the standard defense stuff we showed you got to know that first. That's your foundation, and chances are the aggressive defense is only going to come when you've got a chance to move around and bounce around the outside of the game, or it's a game that's definitely not going to go to the ground where someone's forced into the game of playing strikes against you, and your opponent is, you're a little bit outclassing your opponent. You get a chance to pick him off and pick and choose your targets here. So this has its place, but even though it can be flashier or a little bit more fun to play with or cool to play with, don't ignore all the defensive material that went before this. Again, there's a reason this is coming towards the very end of the material. Now, on pickoffs, is where we're using our elbows to do, as I guess what the Filipinos call destructing of the fist as it comes in. Few ways we're going to do this in standard boxing. This is an idea that's been around in pugilism for a long time. It wasn't necessarily ever allowed. It's another illegal shot. It was just redirecting and trying to do damage to the fist. I guess if the fist is bound up in 16-ounce gloves, you can still do some damage, but less so. We could definitely do damage to each other with these, or if it was a standard street confrontation, definitely damage there as well. We want to keep in mind, you only use these against straight punches, so it's going to be against the jabs and the crosses, hooks, uppercuts, all these ideas. It's going to be not worth your time. It's diminishing returns, trying to get the pinpoint accuracy you would need to attack that punch. Also, you want to keep in mind, you always want to keep your forearms parallel when you're doing this. So that means anytime I'm going to do any pickoff, which we're going to cover in a moment, I will never be bringing my forearms in this horizontal angle. It's always going to be slightly vertical, and I'm going to keep my good base the entire time while I'm trying to parallel positioning the entire time. As soon as I start bringing this out of line, I'm opening up too many target areas. So let's make sure when you're doing your defense, you are staying defensive while you're playing the game. Now, on the pickoff, I can use a lead hand cuff and guide it to this rear elbow. And it's not me striking his fist. It's not how hard I can throw this elbow that inflicts the damage. It's how hard he throws the punch. So it's always my partner, your opponent, dictating how many knuckles he's going to bust in a single punch. So very slowly as it comes in, just open up your hands so I'm just slapping your palm. So he's throwing his jab. He throws the jab out this way. I'm looking to do this motion, a cuff, like a downward cuff directly into this elbow. That's all there is to it. Do it nice and slow if you was going to up, and it could be lead hand guide to the rear elbow. It can be the rear hand guide to the lead elbow, as such. Now, it doesn't matter whether it's this jab, it could be the cross coming in. You get the idea. Just kind of move around. Obviously, I'm not going to stay stock still with it. You'd be using your footwork at all portions of the fight. We've got to stay somewhat static. So, and keep this narrative going. You can also skeet shoot with these punches, which I find is a bit more valuable because whatever people start feeling you do, all this motion going on right here, I think you start investing too much time and attention into this single idea, and you start cueing this other guy, hey, he's got something in mind here. He's going to start switching his tactics and not feeding you the angles that are necessarily conducive for the shot you're going for. Skeet shooting, I think, is far more valuable for you, which is nothing more than very slowly, if he's throwing a punch, it's me while I'm moving around, just putting the elbows, attempting to put the tip of the elbow in position. It has a tendency to look like I'm just moving around using covers, and if he bites the point of the elbow when I'm in this outside range, that's just gravy. That's good for me. If he misses, if he doesn't bite on the elbow, he's still not hitting me because I'm playing around out here in this outside range while I'm putting some of these ideas in. As soon as we get close, you notice the pickoffs go away because I don't have time in this tight fight to start picking these out and put the skeet shooting in. So really the pickoffs are meant to be a little bit of spice in the stew, outside range, bounce it around. You can use those lead and rear hand guidances, but the skeet shooting I think you can find far more conducive to getting some natural damage incurred on this guy every time he tries to throw that punch out there. Staying with their aggressive defense, we talked about the pickoffs, and we're going to talk about killing the arms. Again, these are opportunistic or sometimes accidental, incidental, but opportunistic really. It's not the sort of thing that you go looking for. If you're on the inside fight, you can just you can hook the arms and tenderize the arms. If we're inside moving around, obviously you're working the body, trying to work the head and such. But if you got a guy with he's nice and tight in control, like Mitch is nice and tight here. Lots of times you're trying to hook and try and find your way back behind the arms. But if a guy's really nice and tight with it, doesn't mean your punches have to go to waste. If you realize he is nice and controlled, go ahead and start hooking the upper arms. Everything you got, just as much if you're going to bust on the ribs. You're not ever going to start banging a guy in the arms and tenderize him. He's not going to get to a point where he just stops the fight because of that. You're looking to frog that muscle up, tenderize it, get to where he starts throwing his own punches. There's a lot less power on them, and also gets to a point people get really sensitive about the third, fourth round in if you start blowing the arms away. And you already get the idea. I mean, I'm just doing this nice and light. We're talking about everything you would do to wind up in a heavy bag to blast away on that. You'd be doing the exact same thing in the arms, but here I'm looking to catch him right behind on the tricep. The bicep is too hidden, and it may be flexed, but it doesn't really do you any good. The flat of the arm, less effective, but really hooking around, trying to catch you right on that tricep. This is the muscle, primary muscle he's using to extend his arm anyway, but put some stink on the punches. So tenderize on the inside. Now, We can also move to the outside and start taking a look at against his straight shots, against the jab and the cross. We talked about we can do pickoffs with the elbows and skeet shooting against the straight shots. We can also throw some hooks or uppercuts against these shots. I prefer the hook version, but I've seen some nice old school boxers throw some uppercuts and make this sort of thing work. These are basically extended cuffs. So if he throws this jab out, we already know if I'm doing a cross glove cuff against this jab, what that looks like. So a few jabs, and I cuff, cuff, cuff. If I give him an extended cuff, but I keep the fist closed at the same time. It can be done with the knuckles. It can be done with the hammer fist. If we think about catching him here, we'll do it on this side. If I catch him inside on the bicep. Now, these are really hard to time. Really, when a punch is coming out, usually all you have time to think about is, oh shit, here comes the punch, and I got to stay covered up. I got to block against it and catch it. But if you start moving around your footwork and you start timing and be able to feel what this guy does, you have a shot to put this shot in. Going to go nice and light. He's going to throw the shot. I'm going to put a catch hand in the way of his jab. I'm going to have him throw at speed. I'm going to open up my hand. I'm going to leave it open. I'm not going to slap. I'm just going to give it a slight tap with the hand. We do know that my hand would be closed, catching it with the knuckles or with the hammer fist as we're moving around. He's throwing the jab. Now you get the idea from that slapping against the bicep. You're giving a little bit of a kill. But again, once you start banging at the arms, no one's going to keep feeding you the same punch anymore. But just as we did at this killing on the inside of the bicep, if he throws the cross, I got the same thing. I can start hooking in the backside, looking for the tricep. Some will tell you that you can go ahead and start moving to the outside and catch him along these lines. If you're going to be that good at slipping to the outside, you might as well throw a real shot, a dropping shot, instead of just doing something that inconveniences your opponent, causes him discomfort. We need to look at doing major damage. So I'm talking about primarily using this where we're going to use our lead arm because it's got the most control and the most pinpoint precision. Even against the cross, when he throws it, I'm going to let the lead arm do some of this work. Again, if I'm able to turn the whole body and work this power arm in and actually make contact with something, do real damage with it. Now, what I was talking about with the uppercut, there are some old school fighters that are able to pull this motion off against the arm. I've not ever been able to do it with any kind of success, but some of you might be able to do it. All we're doing here is say a little bit of a catch on it, and this arm will come up underneath, put a little quick uppercut on the arm. Again, it was always the lead arm, never the rear arm, because if you're able to turn and get this much turn into it, slip inside, slip outside with it, go for some major damage, don't go for the minor discomfort. And again, you got to keep in mind the context of where these things are used. So he's still throwing the jab. I'm moving around, making these work. You'd rather go back to work with a standard boxing arsenal because hurting the arm, inconveniencing the arm, is totally different from knocking your opponent out or breaking ribs or closing the eye up. It's just one of those things that can fit into the entire matrix of the pugilism game. And again, add spice to the stew. You're going to work on them, but again, you're not going to make them the hallmark of what's going on. Just be aware that they are there, use them, but just don't fall in love with them and make them the be-all, end-all of your game. Okay, I'm standing here by myself. You're thinking, oh no, here comes a long, tedious lecture from Mark. This is short, I promise you. We're going to talk about a few jab drills I want you to work with. I keep telling you the jab is the most important punch in your pugilism boxing game, NHB game. You got to have it. It's a 90%er, so it deserves some drills unto itself so you can play with. Now each of the drills I'm getting ready to show you, these are very easy, they're simplistic, and you go, hey, I knew that sort of thing. A lot of people know there are jab drills, but they just don't work them enough. Everything I show you is going to be very quickly. Do about 3-minute rounds with them to make sure you understand them. If you never go back to them again, which you should be going back to the basics all the time, but at least do me the courtesy of playing with them for at least one of the 3-minute rounds as you encounter these drills as they come up. First and foremost in each of these are all jabs. We're going to play with some hitting on the fly. First, we're talking about being able to jab and move, or move before you jab, or move after the jab. First, we're going to stand in your stance. You're going to throw a jab. I'm not throwing anything full force right now. We're trying to just get a nice marriage between throwing the jab and the footwork. You're going to throw your jab and then hit your advance. In standard, like when you're playing with the gym or the ring, you'll be able to jab and advance all the way across the room. Here I'm going to have to keep repositioning myself to make this sort of thing work. But you stay in a position, throw your jab, get a little bit of a move forward, jab, move forward, jab, move forward. Just how I'm jabbing, kind of move the head a little bit, and get some forward momentum out of it. Jab, move, find different ways to move around all the time. Juke to the inside, to the outside. Make sure you're not predictable every time you move. You can also jab and retreat. Jab, get your step back. Or jab, do that quick retreat where you do the loading up, jab, sliding back on the ball of the foot, pulling in. So it's a step back, jab, load up on the toe in and drag back. You can jab and move less. We got the jab, step, step. Same idea, jabbing and moving right, jab, move right. And again, don't mean to insult your intelligence by trying to pick up all these angles for you, but you got to play with these because you need to jab and move. You hear people all the time, stick and move, stick and move. Stick means throw the jab, and move means move. Most people just throw the jab, stay in there. Got to move around all the time. Throw that jab, start moving around clockwise, jab, clockwise, jab, counterclockwise. It could be jab and a wheel and a pivot, or jab, a nice little shuffle around to the outside with it. Same time you get the idea with jabbing on the hitting on the move, hitting on the fly, sticking and moving. You can also play with the multiples with it. Combine these same ideas. The multiples mean throwing jabs in succession, double jabbing, triple jabbing, and also giving a quadruple jabbing. Now when you're doubling up or throwing multiples, you don't want to vibrate the arm, which shows sideways. You'll see what I mean. You're going to be throwing a jab, full recovery, jab. That's proper. It's not going to be jab, halfway home, and jab. Because you notice whenever I'm doing that, I throw halfway out, I'm totally open. I mean, all the way out, totally open. Halfway in, and then go back out. I've increased the amount of time that my body's open. So I need to be out, out. Bring it all the way back in. So we're talking about the positive and negative being just as important. So when you double jab, full recovery on each shot. So a few double jabs at the camera, then in profile, then we'll go to the triples, and then the quadruples. So you got triple, quadruple. Seldom will you find the time. You need to use four at once, but it's nice to know that you've got them if you need them. It's a nice training effect, conditioning effect for the arm, particularly when you can do the three-minute rounds with it. Then you would take those same multiples and put those back on the hitting and the fly drills. Double jab, forward, double jab, retreat. Take a look at the previous hitting and the fly, combine it with the multiples, mix and match those, and drill this jab scrupulously. We're now going to take a look at a few varieties of jabs you can play with. Now, so everything we've shown you has been off the standard jab when we started at the beginning of the arsenal, and that's primarily going to be the one that you use and play with the entire time. But there are a few different ideas you can play with. Most of the other punches don't have this much variation to them, and trust me, whenever you see some of these variations, you may think, well, that's hardly any difference whatsoever. It still is. You play with it, they may be subtle, but they turn out to be, whenever they start making impact, they amount to some huge differences. But the jab, again, being the most important punch in your arsenal, you got to make sure you do understand how the different variations work and know when and where they should be used. The first I'm going to show is called the falling step jab, or it's a favorite punch of Dempsey. He called his jab the lead jolt. He was able to and no one doubts Dempsey's punching power, and he accredited to being able to use this falling step. And I think if you work it, just three-minute rounds, you already find there's a lot of wisdom in what he's got to say. It really works well. He was always throwing his jab with a step into the punch. Oftenly, you would always be moving forward whenever you punch. At the same time, you're putting the weight into the inside ball of the foot and getting your waist pivot out of every waist pivot, waist twist, and the shoulders in to throw your punch to get the power. But he was always moving forward whenever he could. And not was he. His footwork, nothing sophisticated in the sense of moving forward, except the fact that he would time his foot hitting the mat and his fist making impact at the same time. So there was no change, and I'm exaggerating here, there was no touch, then hit, or no hit, and then touch. It's at the same time. And he actually had this stomping motion going on. You could actually hear it. It's almost akin to the sound you get in pro wrestling, where people slapping the mat or faking a drop kick on someone to get the sound effect. So to some degree, it seems like you're trying to fake for a sound effect, but you're actually allowing yourself to really drive that weight forward, timing that impact, putting a little bit more power in the punch. So in profile, you're just getting a nice lunge step forward, but in the lunge step, it's just not this nice, easy weight transfer. You're going to get a nice little stomp forward. Now do the stomp. I'm not going to exaggerate and pick the leg up high, just enough to step forward and put that foot into the mat. Then you start adding your jab on top of that, work with the heavy bag or the focus pads and timing the jab, making impact. Same time, the foot is getting the stomp in play. And then you've got your falling step jab, or as Dempsey called it, the lead jolt. Another variety would just be a standard lunge jab. And this is actually just a steal from fencing. There was a point in the 1800s that boxing, whenever it was going through being kind of revitalized, lots of ideas from fencing, some other arts are being brought into play about both defense and offense. One of the main things that worked in the jab, because usually there was more roundhouse blows in boxing, but the straight shots of the jab, a lot of those were based off the fencing. And fencing has a lot of really nice lunging footwork. Now you can't get as deep and low with your fencing, with your footwork in boxing or pugilism as you could with fencing, because we're not dealing with the length of the weapon. We're still going to use the same lunge where we drive off the rear foot, again driving off that rear inside ball of the foot. We've already done this with the step and drag forward, and we've done it to some degree with the falling step. The difference is we're looking at covering even more distance. So our standard step and drag might give us to here. A falling step might give us the same distance with the addition of the foot stomp. The lunge is where you're actually trying to find how much distance you can cover and still get your hips over the top of that inside ball of the foot. You realize you've lunged too far whenever you're caught jabbing, and notice my hips are not over the top of that inside ball of the foot. This jab is ineffective because I'm not able to get my weight up on top of it. So you'll find the limits of your lunge whenever you're able to do this. As soon as you find yourself back about 4 or 5 inches from being on top of that, you've reached the limits of the lunge, and your job is to find out where you think your standard lunge distance is going to be. And realize as you start getting fatigued, that lunge distance goes down. Again, where you're using the lunge is obviously to cover distance. Perhaps you don't have the reach of another fighter, or you've got guys playing cagey, wanting to fight and run around the entire time. The jab is already the longest range punch you've got. You might have to use the lunge jab to cover that distance for someone who doesn't even seem interested in playing the game with you. So once you've figured out where your distance is on the lunge jab, then you start timing, getting your jab right on top of that weight transfer. You do not have to have the stomp on it, but what you are trying to time is when you lunge, as soon as your hips get on top of that inside ball of the foot, that's when the jab wants to hit. And that's not to say I'm segmenting. I'm not stepping forward, feeling the weight, and then putting the hand in. All this is working at the same time, just trying to make sure the hip is on top of the inside ball of the foot at the same time the hand is making contact. So into the camera on my lunge jab here, into the side. Incorrect, again, would be whenever I'm having to leave my hips away from this inside ball of the foot. You have a speed jab or show jab is another variety. This is nothing more than, so far, every jab we showed you, we were really scrupulous about using the footwork, the waist pivot, the hip pivot, getting your shoulders into it. This jab really has no power on it. Now, perhaps if you're at upper weight class, you're just a naturally incredibly strong human being, it still will have some jolt to it, but it's meant to be a bother me jab. It's one that has no tells to it, no telegraphing to it. Well, you're reducing the amount of telegraphing. It's one where you decide that your arm is independent from the remainder of your body. So what you're trying to do is just get this arm from here to target, and then don't move anything else. Now, it might move after you've put the jab into play, but your job is to make sure that all of this is not working at the same time. Now, don't get me wrong. Everything about this standard, this is proper. This is how you want to play the game and throw the jab, but sometimes when you're trying to use speed and surprise, you're just trying to make it straight from the shoulder, out, straight out, hard to read. And it's really speed, not in the sense that how fast you're throwing it. It's just... it's the perceptual speed for your opponent. It's hard, since there are no tails or reduced tails, it's harder for him to see it coming out and hitting his target. And again, it's meant to be a bother me. You're moving around, you're just trying to get that hand out there, and you're just flicking it the entire time. You see it a lot in standard pro boxing matches where the first round, there's people doing a lot of flicking jabs, lots of speed jabbing, and because we're trying to do is conserve energy, not overcommit. They're trying to see how this opponent reacts to that jab, and that's where it has its place. Unfortunately, you see a lot of people learn the jab where they think jabs are all arm. You just see people doing basically a show jab, but they're putting everything they've got into it and forgetting that it is working from the ground up. Now, fortunately, you're viewing this material, you know it's the opposite. You build the jab from the inside ball of the foot all the way up, but realize the speed jab has its place as a probe, as a feeler, as a bother me, to find out how he's going to react to your real jabs. Then you fall back on those previous varieties of jabs that we talked about. Another jab variety that, to some degree, we've covered in the defensive section is just called a post jab. If you recall, whenever we were doing the defense against the low jab, where I just extended the hand, the palm, placed it on Mitch's head, stopped him from coming in. A post jab is where you're throwing a jab. You honestly mean to get that jab out there. At the end of the jab, instead of getting a retraction on it, you're going to break a rule. You're going to throw your jab out, just like we did on the post jab, the stop jab against Mitch's low jab. And post it out there, keep it in play, fade your hips back, and you're meaning once you hit with it, use it to keep someone off of you momentarily. And now, I could have brought Mitch back in here and show you how to do it, but we've already covered this to some degree, just making sure I'm not going to insult your intelligence and assume that you needed to visualize at this moment. But how you would work this again, even if you're working with a heavy bag, stand and play, hit that heavy bag, fade your hips back, and keep yourself away from the heavy bag, and then move yourself out of position, then back in. Post, see how it fade the hips and move out to some degree. Post, fade the hips out, then bring yourself out. You do not want to post and stay close because you're still in range to be hit. We're trying to post, fade the body back, hide the jaw with this shoulder, hide the jaw with this hand, and keep the chin down. So it's going to be post, fade, come out. Post, fade, and come back out. Now, where we're using this jab, we've got a tight rushing fighter. Someone's coming to that end fight. We're trying to post on them and stop up that momentum. Sometimes it's enough to push them off and move away. The jab is a far more effective way to post someone or to get the shove working. We need to discuss how to throw jabs from unorthodox positions. We're talking about, we already know our two hand positions. We got the long range stance, we know toe in, everything. We know this at this point. And where we pull in tight, form a cage, we're talking about the end stance. Now, anyone who's watched any professional boxing in the last 25 years, we're seeing a lot of people who are fighting from these hands down positions. Now, there's lots of excellent fighters who can play the game from here, but it takes a lot of hand speed to work from here. We watch a lot of these fighters who play from this hand-down position, might look good in their 20s, and they start getting 30, particularly around the age of 35. We're getting some speed is starting to deteriorate on them. This hands-down lead position starts going to hell for them. So it's best to always learn to play from the proper position because it makes sense, closest weapon, closest target. The hand's already up, I can start throwing the jab. It's easier just to move my body around with my legs than having to move my hand such a long distance. It's such a big tail, such a big telegraph. But you can practice it. I'm not advocating you be in this stance when you're throwing a jab, but sometimes you recover, you can get pulled out of position. I could have thrown a big heavy hook. I violated one of my own principles and got pulled out of play, and I realized my hand's here at rib level. I still might need to be able to throw a jab from this position. So even though I'm going to show you a series of drills from hand and low reference points, doesn't mean that's where I want your stance to be. So make sure we're on the same page about how, why you've been working this sort of thing. So you're going to work out with a few. Remember we talked about having a nice roll cover where we have the hands on the liver. We're actually take the hand at rib level, move around, work on just throwing the jab from this position, getting used to being able to do all the same mechanics about pivoting over that inside ball of the foot, move around, throw that jab, pull it back in, and try and be as crisp as possible by pulling yourself back into this lousy reference point, but make sure that you are comfortable doing it so you can pull it out in the eventuality that you do have to do this by necessity. Now we've played it from rib level. Let's drop this all the way down to hip level. Right, as if we had our hand at the holster level, we're getting ready to put the hand in the pocket. Same thing, move around, use the exact same mechanics about trying to get over that lead foot, be as crisp as possible without sacrificing any other portion of form beyond the fact that we have working from such a horrible hand reference point. The other way you can work this low reference jab is you'll see a lot of these fighters we talked about who play with it from a low level will do what you call a sway jab. The hand's low, it could be the rib reference point, the hip reference point, but this hand is always rocking. And the theory behind this is the fact that it's harder to read when this hand's going to come up. If it's stock still, moving from here, it looks like you're in some kind of okay corral, quick gun, fast draw mode. When you're kind of swinging the arm a little bit, some will tell you the shoulder's a little bit more mobile, the muscles are already moving, and you're going to have a faster initiation speed. I don't know if that's true from the neurological standpoint, but it is a lot harder to read from something that's already moving a little bit. You can, like I said, you can sway it from the hips or sway it a little bit from this rib position. But at the end of the jab, you're still making sure you're getting that weight transfer we're talking about. We still want to make sure we're doing this properly without it being, let them be true jabs and not show jabs. One more jab variety, we're just going to show you from arms akimbo, and this is for the people who want to apply this material for the street. Obviously, if you can already throw your jab from your hands in this down position, it makes more sense at a street confrontation. You're not sure sucker punch is getting ready to occur or the confrontation is ready to go. You can probably get ready to throw this jab from this position and come out. But even more unnatural is to work with the arms akimbo, the hands on the hips. Now, the sports enthusiasts, I consider myself among them, we're not ever going to be fighting this while I walk around the ring and expose our chin and make sure people know how fast we are. This one you're going to have to see if you can just learn from stock still, get this hand from the hip, get this hand up into control position, a slight step into it, get your hip transfer, and get a true jab onto it. You want to work on two varieties with it. You want to work on, optimally, if we're talking about a street confrontation, we feel what's going on, we know the talk has got aggressive, we want to be able to come as close to assuming a semi-ready stance as we can without telegraphing it. So, example, we can't leave the hands on the hips, starting doing heel-toe line and standing here with his shoulder in and down. It just looks ridiculous. People are on to you, something's up. But there might be a chance to kind of cheat into this one leg forward. Like for me, since I'm a southpaw, that right foot comes forward, but you can still tell I'm kind of heel-toe, and it still has a somewhat of a natural look, even though a lot of people don't stand at this hip side thing unless they're trying to do some sort of gap add, something like that. But I'm still trying to make sure I'm closer to be able to drop into this jab. So I want you to try a few when your arms are akimbo, where you kind of cheat into that stance to some degree. And the harder version is to go from straight square on, which is more natural when two people are yelling. Like if you're already yelling and talking about this sort of thing here, well, this is so damn close to our standard stance, you don't have to address. It's going to make sense to be able to throw a jab well from there. I don't think you have to work it that much. But here, this one's going to call for you to make a transfer to here and get the hand off the hip. To make that transfer, I would suggest not just doing a step against this sort of thing, which we'll cover at a later date in our street stuff, but you're actually going to get a bending of the knees. This will make the transfer much quicker for you because you actually get a gravity assist is to go into a position instead of me just doing, this is slow-mo, but instead of seeing this sort of transfer to here, a slight downward shift with the knees gets me into position. So we're going to try a few from this position, and then a few where we just have to go from a standard squared-on position, step into the jab, or from here in the gap position, step into the jab, squared position, descend, and step into the jab. Again, obviously, that's only for people who are thinking about street work. All the other jab varieties, the main one you want to know is going to be the one we showed at the very beginning of the arsenal. Then after that, you want to learn the Dempsey jolt jab, the lead jolt, the falling step jab, and then probably you're going to want to have the speed jab in there, so you can learn how to just probe, pick the guy apart, see what his reactions are. The post jab for defensive purposes. These low reference jabs, I don't think you have to spend too much time on them. Again, they're meant when you've been pulled out of position, because I'm really not an advocate of all of you learning to fight with your hands in the down position. And the arms akimbo, whether you're squared up or stepping forward, that's just for anyone who's just thinking straight. If you're a sports enthusiast, throw this last minute and a half I've talked about it out the window. You don't need that. Staying with the jab, we've talked about all the varieties of jabs. So far the varieties all had to do with being at the high level. We've already discussed the low-level jabs, about how to throw them. We talked about the crouching jab. We've already learned that in the previous the arsenal. And we talked about the toe touch jab, when we're leaning over, we get the folding jab. Some people call it the Navy jab. No need to go back and hit that again. If you were curious or if you skipped ahead, go back to the arsenal section, take a look at how to throw the low jab. But what you do need to know about the low jab, when you throw a low jab, if you throw it low, you've got to come out high. And when we're saying we're come out, I don't mean you throw it and then stand up directly in front of your opponent, because he's getting ready to unload on top of you here. So what you've got to do is throw your jab, take a step back, and then come up. So slowly, the low jab, notice I'm using the crouch jab, I told you that's my preference, and then back out of it. So it's always going to be go in low, come out high. Now, if you do stand up directly in front of an opponent, it's going to have to be hit low, stand up with the punch. It can't be, and it's got to be coming up with the punch. It can't be here, stand up, and then choose a punch. It has to be step in and a punch as you're rising with it. You'll see more of this idea coming up just a few when we're talking about combinations. Just make sure you understand the going in low and coming out, or going in low, and you can also go to the inside. But a few drills to play with just to get this you acclimated to this sort of thinking is this. Right now, have you throw a low jab and then step out, step back out to the high position, run 3 3-minute rounds, and just like in, back out, back out, back out, back out. You can also throw a drill whenever you're doing we've talked about throwing a jab in low, stepping out high. We're talking about coming up high this time. We're talking about throwing low jab, stand up into the lead hook. Again, it's not low jab, stand up, then choose or access the lead hook from the arsenal menu. It's got to be here to here. So it's going to be step in, back up to the top, from the side. You see, on the way up, the hook is already getting cocked and loaded. It's still not perfectly safe, because we descended our level. Both his guns are still high, can rain down on top of us. But if we are going to come right back up in front of him, making sure we're coming back with some malicious intent. You've also got the ability to move, start wheeling to the inside. So if you and I are sparring, you right there watching the screen, I step in and I throw the low jab. I've got my options of coming back out high, jabbing, coming up with a shot, or jabbing and moving off to the inside. So you and I are facing directly on. I step in and hit that jab. I got to move the inside, my inside. Never my outside, because I just planted all the weight on that inside ball of the foot, and I start wheeling the outside. It gets to be, you realize if you were just in front of me, I just gave you my back. So I've got to step in, wheel the inside, never outside. So it's going to be jab, wheel, and then come up. Notice I don't jab, stand up, wheel. It's got to be in the order I told you. Jab low, wheel, come up. So here, up, then up. We can combine that coming up with another, where we're throwing the hook, like we did with the jab, stood up, cocking that lead hook. We do the exact same thing, where we step in, jab, wheel, stand up with the lead hook. So, step in, jab, wheel, stand up with the lead hook. It's going to be... Get the idea. Now, one more drill to play with are these jabs. Be lots more ideas coming up when we hit the combinations. You can talk about doing, you can step in and throw that jab, and if you want to throw a high jab afterwards, you still got to come out and then re-enter at the high angle. Even though it looks like it would be a lot of fun, optimal, less work for you to go jab here and stand up to here, but you notice it's really hard to get the proper cocking out of this arm. With the hook, you're able to be rising, standing up, and putting that pivot on the blow. Here, when I throw that low jab, I'm loaded here, and as I'm standing up, I'm at the load, and at some point, if this was an absolute freeze frame momentum, you're going to see a point I throw the jab low, stand up, there'd be a momentary freeze before I could fire off the second jab. So it's going to have to be step in jab, out, and then back in on the high jab. So it's going to be here, out, back in. And from the side. Now, it seems like we're playing combination work at this point. To some degree, we are. But so far, all the combinations had to do with using only the jab. We put a hook in on top of it just to kind of get the idea of how you can rise back up with it. And we're going to play lots more combinations here in a few. And the jab, out of all the punches, deserves this own little section because it is so vitally important. Again, have your standard jab down. And again, there were no real new varieties of the low jab, but keep in mind, if you enter low, you got to come out high or wheel to the inside, never the outside, or if you are going to come up directly in front of that opponent, you've got to come up with a punch that can be naturally cocked and loaded and ready to go to work. Time to play with some combinations now. Combinations are really what you've got your arsenal down. This is going to be the hallmark of your boxing, your pugilism game, your NHB game. Fights are won by the overwhelming offense. It's the combinations win the fight. Seldom do you just see a one-punch knockout blow. The one-punch blow is really something more you see in movies or between two unschooled fighters, for example, in a tough man contest. Usually damage is cumulative. It's nice to have knockout power, some KO power. Matter of fact, I've read a rather lengthy essay about how to, knockout power, how the physics of the knockout works in our book, Boxing Mastery. And since that's more conducive to lecture material, it's in print. You can take a look at that book if you need to, which I think that book kind of really helps supplement the material here. But knockouts are, it's like, Sugar Ray Robinson used to say he never had a hard punch, but he said had a great knockout record because it's all about timing. It's the overwhelming offense the entire way. Now, what we're going to do with this lengthy combination section, we're going to show you 2-point combinations, 3 points, 4 points, 5 points, 6 points, where these are not every combination available by any stretch of the imagination. What these are, a lot of the high percentage ones. What I've done with these, I'm taking combinations from this years of being anal retentive about watching old school fights all the way up to the modern era and trying to tabulate all the combinations that seem to be the most effective. Not just the ones that appeared the most, but the ones that seem to have the most effective, the best effect, had the most bite to them, and then broke them up into whether they're a 2-point combination, meaning 2 punches in them, or 3 punches in them, or 4 punches in them, and then kind of put them in order of at the front of at the top of the list would be the ones that seem to have the most effect, and on down the line. Obviously, there's many more combinations you can make, but that's kind of the method of the madness in this next combination section. So once you master these combinations, doesn't mean that's all there is. It just means that's a nice tip of the iceberg to get you going and putting your own together. Now, keep in mind with combinations, the reason they work so well, they help they're conducive to knockouts and winning the game. They're more confusing to your opponent. Throwing one punch in isolation, throwing a jab, and your opponent gets a chance to react to it, then he throws something, then you throw something. You're only having to react to one stimulus. Whenever you start throwing more than one shot, the stimuli obviously is going to the roof, and it gets harder and harder for your opponent to read what's going to happen. Remember, you're going to miss more than you hit. Chances are you're going to hit someone's defense more than you ever bite into a target, but the job is the more offensive tools you throw at them, the more likely they are to start biting in, and either going to find that little magic moment with timing that it connects, get your knockout, or you get your cumulative damage. It's going to equal the same results anyway. When you're throwing combinations, it's nice to think up and then down, or then down, then up. And what I mean by that, if I can set up, just don't be a headhunter. Don't throw everything at the head, but we can throw and work the head. Hitting the head has a tendency to bring the hands up. Then we work the body. If you start working the body, it's best to come up, start working the head. It's also a good idea when you're throwing your combinations to think a good synchronized flow. Think about things that will capitalize on how you have to move across the pivot points on that inside ball of the foot. So for example, if I'm throwing this lead hook, I'm already loaded up probably for this hand, for the rear hand. So if I throw this lead hook, I'm loaded in this position, maybe a rear hook, perhaps coming back in with a straight shot, with the cross, perhaps even turning, get a little bit of a hip cock and bringing in this uppercut. But if I'm already here in this lead hook, and I would have to reposition myself to come in with an uppercut, that took a lot of work. So your best combinations are going to be the ones that emphasize being able to let your body pivot, move through some natural motions. That's not to say that I am going to show you a few combinations that will call for you to move from a hook and then reposition in a slightly unnatural manner. I've included them because some boxers have made some great use of coming in with this unorthodox idea, but for the most part you're going to find ones that work on counter revolutions or emphasize the body moving in a natural flow will be the ones most conducive to your success, but we'll kind of mix and match them but weight them towards the counter revolution idea. It's often best to finish your combinations with your lead arm. Just you should start with your lead arm more often than not because it's the closest weapon to the target, it's the fastest weapon, it's harder, least likely to give you a telegraph, and you would probably want to finish with the lead arm because it allows you to get back and set yourself. You can never go into a combination assuming your opponent's going to be done and finished and knocked out. So what I mean by that, if I'm throwing at you, they're watching the screen, might open with a jab, maybe the cross, the lead hook, and I finish with the lead arm, so I'm able to kind of back out and take a look, assess the damage, and see where you are in your state of your defense and start reading if you're trying to launch an offense. But if I throw a jab, cross, lead hook, and rear uppercut, and then decide to come out, you see, it's a little harder for me to get all the way back in defensive position immediately. We're here, here, here. That's a little bit smoother than going from here, 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 here. We're trying to make sure open with the lead more often than not and close with the lead arm more often than not. And again, we'll violate that rule coming up, but it's best to kind of weight your idea towards letting the lead be the opening and the ending, the alpha and the omega of your combinations. A few more ideas. We talked about playing up and then going down with combinations. You can use your straight punches to set up your hook punches. If you guys got a good guard, you throw maybe a jab and a cross to get them to narrow this guard up, then you start whipping your hooks on this. If you've got a guy who's got pretty good defense down the center, you might start throwing hooks to make him open up this guard a little bit, and obviously that starts opening up that middle line. You might start banging your uppercuts to lower this guy's guard, so you start moving in towards the head. So it's just not the idea of learning and memorizing the combinations, which you should memorize them. It's also getting an idea of which combinations you should be using for which particular opponent or which particular situation. So figure out where his guards are. Hey, his guard's always a high. How do I lower it? Uppercuts are going to lower it so I can go to the head hunting. And you get the or if I want to narrow the guard, I got to be able to throw these straight shots. Figure out where you're using the combinations. That's just as important as throwing the combinations themselves. Okay, now keep those ideas in mind. With that said, we're going to go on and start throwing these things. You see Mitch is back. That must mean something fun is getting ready to happen. We're going to start running through these combinations. We're on 2-point combinations right now. 2-point meaning it's a combination comprised of only 2 punches. How we're going to try and work this format here is I'll probably demonstrate the combination maybe just 2 to 3 times, then we'll move on to the next one. I'll call them as we go, and then that way we can kind of blow through this material because there's a whole lot of this material. Also, you can refer to the captions you'll see on this. Matter of fact, one of Dave Dubrow here at Paladins was going to be the guy kind enough to take a look at this footage again and again and again and again and have to put the captions on there. So if you find the captions helpful, he's the guy to thank, not me. All right, so first we're going to hit is the double jab. I told you already hit the jabs, some of the jab stuff earlier. We're going to do it again because it's so important. Again, every time you throw a combination, go ahead and put your arm down a minute, I'm sorry. It's artificial. We're going to try and stay in somewhat of a static, compact field right here. Usually we'd be throwing these combinations, moving all over the place, being fluid, getting all the footwork and play that we can, giving more juking and jiving with the upper body. Here we'll kind of minimize that play so we can emphasize the combination work only. So double jab is our first one. We're up. Easy enough. Going to follow that up with a jab to the head, then a jab to the body. So I'm going to jab here, and he's going to feed across on the arm. I'm always pulling this so we're not frogging that arm up too much. So jab head, jab body. Notice I'm coming out to the high position. I don't stand up in front of him like we just talked about. Back out. Then we've got jab to the body, then jab to the head. So I'm going to jab, got to come out and come back in because I'm not naturally conscious. We just described earlier, went low, can't stand up and do it here. Got to go here, out, back in. Get the idea on that one. Now we're going to start putting it together with double jabbing. We double jabbed high, going to double jab the body. Step in low, bang, bang, and then out. Now we're going to do jab cross. Jab this glove, cross this glove. Okay, next up we're going to jab to the head, cross the body. Here, here. Coming out low. Next we're going to jab the body, cross the head. This one, we got to come out again. It's going to be here, out, back, bang, out, back. Feels more like a 3-beat because of the body motion, but it's still a 2-point combination because it's only 2 punches. So here, out, back in. Next we got the jab the body, cross the body. Hit both low, come back out high. Okay, next we've got we're going to throw the jab into the lead hook. Some people call this hooking off the jab, so it's going to be jab, high lead hook. So we're here. Notice I'm cocking that punch back. I'm just staying out here, turning it over just a few inches away from the target. Knockouts need room. We got to make every punch for real. So it's here, cock it back in, load it back up. Next up, hey Mitch, you can probably read the chart better than I can. Where are we at?
Jab, body, hook, head.
Jab, body, hook, head. So it's going to be here. And we talked about now I can come up in front of him because I'm cocking that hook right here.
Jab, body, rear, hook, head.
Okay, so we get to, again, come right back up in front of him. Jab, body. Load up that telegraphing punch.
We're jab, lead, uppercut.
Jab, lead, uppercut. Now this is one of those techniques we talked about that has an unnatural motion with the body, but it can, once you get a guy off balance or he's moving past you, it has its place. So it's going to be jab, reset, and turn and get the hip into it.
That's jab, rear, uppercut.
Okay, here, a little bit more of a natural shot to throw in. Winging that one. Did you see that? I'm old, guys. Bear with me.
Hit hard. cross hook.
Okay, this is fun. Get the cross, high lead hook.
Crossbody hook head.
Cross body. I get to stand right back up in front of him to throw this. I don't have to come back out because the hook is a natural load. Come from low to high. So bang, bang.
Cross head hook body.
There you go. Hit high on that cross and bang. I'm gonna hit you on the arm right here. We'll feed it this way. Let's spin that so we can see it. Bang, bang, right here. Again, this isn't hooking low. Me leaving my hand arm, dropping my arm to the hook position. I go with the body to make this work. There we go. When you double up on a lead hook, I'm coming in low, bang, then hitting high. And since I'm coming in low, coming in with a natural load up, I can't stand back up in front of them. But there's slight mechanics, the way you move your shoulder on this one. I'm gonna come in, hit low, and I'm not gonna recover all the way to my jaw on this one to come back up. I'm gonna double up, hitting, pulling this about 8 inches down and back, and then let the punch fire from here. It's got a weird, real wide open look, but it's a bit faster than me going here, load, and hit. So it's gonna be here to here. See that? And then pull to here. So it's gonna be bang, bang. We can double up on the lead hook. You can double up on the rear hook. The exact same idea. Throwing low, drop this about 12 inches back, excuse me, 12 inches back and down, then come back up. We don't have to go here, cock to here. We can go here, pull, here, hit, pull, here. Obviously, we're using this as a finisher. This is a real nice one to use when you got someone on the ropes or you're shuffling with them. You can eat them up as you're moving laterally side to side. We'll do more of that on the rope work and the shuffling later on, but double lead hooking, double rear hooking will be very prominent in that section.
Hook lead uppercut.
Okay, again, hook lead uppercut. Remember, it's a slightly unnatural lead in, so we got this hook and then have to recock the body in this position. A natural counter evolution will be coming off this rear side, but some of these, as I tell you, will violate the rule because it can confuse your opponent all the more. So we got the hook, the lead uppercut. I'm saying that right?
Hook, lead
so we're here.
Hook cross body.
Okay, we're gonna hook, bang, cross the body. Some of these, I'm saying these out loud so one, you can hear them, but it's also so I can hear them again myself. So we got hook, cross the body, and since I'm in low, I can't stand up in front of them because it's not a three-point combination for me to return with. Gotta hook them, cross them low, and come back out to high. Hand okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Lead uppercut jab.
Okay, now it's an unusual combination. We're throwing this lead uppercut, and we decide we need to get to the outside range instead of me just throwing bang and walking out. It's gonna be bang, a little bit of a show jab on the way out, just to let them know I still exist. It's not gonna be much on that jab at all, but it's nice to always be throwing something out there, peppering them up where you can.
rear uppercut, rear hook.
Rear uppercut, rear hook. Again, unnatural on the load, but it has its place. It's going to be bang, bang. Now on this one, notice I am pulling back to the chin. You might be asking, why am I not treating this like the double up on the hook and just pulling to here? Since the uppercut is definitely an infighting tool, I've got to reassess my defense after every single positive motion. Got to make sure I pay close attention to that negative. So it's going to be cover, back up. Be a little bit higher on that hook, please. Okay, lead uppercut, rear uppercut. Natural feel. We're nice and tight. Gonna be bang, bang, paying close attention to how the hip work is, where we're thinking about the hips getting centered over that lead ball, inside ball of the foot. Won't really happen as we discussed in the arsenal. But also here's where I want you to play with it. Not out here. This is an inside fight, so I start out on the pads with my head on them. Then I'll bring the head off to hit and hit. Get my head back on the pads. That's how you want your feeder to work. The feeder is just as important as the guy throwing the punches right now. I mean, watch what he's doing, how he's giving me a little bit of resistance, staying close, staying a little bit alive. We'll show you how to get the feeder even more alive in some later drills, but keep in mind, this one, start close, back up, in on, back in tight, as if this were his chest. Bang, bang.
Rear uppercut hook.
Rear uppercut hook, kind of a natural feel, but you got to lead off with this rear uppercut. Remember I told you never lead with this rear hand, let alone a rear uppercut? Some of these combinations are predicated on the idea he could have just thrown this shot, I slipped to the outside, there's the rear uppercut into the hook. So keep in mind the combinations will have their place in the context of what he threw. This will come together, make sense. After the combination section, we go into trigger punching section. These things, two-eyed issue, should meld like a nice, beautiful stew in your mind. It'll make sense how these things will be applied. So rear uppercut to lead hook.
Rear uppercut.
So bang, bang.
Rear uppercut cross.
Rear uppercut. Notice we're all looking off to our left to find this chart because this is a wealth, a cornucopia of material. So keep in mind, we're trying to keep it straight in order for you guys. So please forgive us doing this cheat sheet stuff. It's cliff notes for us old guys. What is it again? I'm sorry.
Rear uppercut cross.
Rear uppercut cross. So a little bit of an unnatural feel. I'm in tight. Bang. And I stood him up with this. We could have been in close. Bang. He stands up and I'm thinking, ooh, bang. Hit that thing. So we're nice, tight. Boom. Up. Reload. So it's here. Got my forehead on it. Bang, bang. Forehead on it. Bang, bang. Again, just for fun. Bang, bang.
Rear uppercut jab.
Okay, this is another one of those we're moving to the outside. We're in tight. I realize this infight's a little harder than I meant for it to be. It's time to leave. I give him a show jab on the way out. So we're in here. Bang.
Rear uppercut, rear hook.
Okay, a little bit of a natural feel, but again, we're trying to confuse the opponent, let alone myself. Rear uppercut, rear hook. And we'll take that one a little high again. So it'll be like bang, bang. Here we go. You'll notice on each one of these, even though we're trying to stay tight, I'm not just going bang, bang. Stock still. Got to give it a little bit of movement. Optimally, I would be moving around even more juking and jiving. But we already discussed that earlier. You know that component is supposed to be here. And I keep stopping and calling your attention to it. Hook, rear hook. Oh, that's a fun one. It's an infighting tool. So again, bang, bang at the high level. Hump that head. You may have used something to set him up low, like we talked about in the combinations theory portion. You're going to come up and catch that jaw, that chin on either side. So here we go. Good.
hook, rear uppercut.
Here we go. Hook, bang, rear uppercut. So we get that jaw off at an angle, come right up underneath. It's a thing of beauty. I think there's one more to go in these 2-point combinations.
That is the rear hook, rear uppercut.
Rear hook, rear uppercut. This one is awkward. It's at the end for a reason. Rear hook, reload, rear uppercut. So there we go. Keep in mind, that is not all of the 2-point combinations available to you. Those are some to get you going, to get you growing, and it'll be the highest percentage of success as I've tabulated from some sitting there scrupulously, anal retentively, obsessive compulsively watching old school matches from as early as I can get up to the now. Thank you, sir. Three-point combination time. Again, we know 3 points means 3 punches. First up, we just got triple jab. We discussed this already in the jab section, but let's just stay anal retentive with it and keep it at the top of the list. 1, 2, 3. Notice 3 distinct negative retractions on this, not 1, 2, 3 right here. Not a quarter, half, 3/4, all the way back. So notice a little bit of a stutter step coming in each time. It's a lot easier than standing still right here and vibrating at your opponent. Going in with like a miniature falling step. I will not shut up. You know what?
I know. Next is jab, step, hook.
Okay, now notice this is actually a 2-point combination, but I put it in here because this step is going to be treated as a distinct motion within the combination. So here, I want to, we've already done the hooking off the jab, where we threw the jab immediately in the hook. This is someone who stayed right here with us. Here, I get his attention with the jab. He backed on me slightly. Then there's a step where I load up the hook at the same time. One of the few areas where we'll violate calling a step a portion of the combination. So jab, step, hook.
Jab, hook, lead uppercut.
Ooh, 3 off of 1, okay? It's awkward, but it has its place. So it's jab, hook, lead uppercut. Is that where we're at? Jab,
Yep.
hook. Okay, jab, hook, lead uppercut. So let this old man get in his head. 1, 2, 3. Here we go. So that's 3 angles. Straight angle, a lateral angle, a horizontal angle, a vertical angle. Should be trying to load them all up. Or I can play a little bit more loose and go for speed. Make that happen as well.
Next is a variation of that, which is the jab, lead uppercut, hook.
Okay, so we still use the jab to probe it, lead upper, and the hook. Make them 3 distinct ones. Bang, bang, bang. I know I'm giving sound effects. Or we can vibrate those out. Let them be more about the speed.
Jab, jab, cross.
Jab, jab, cross. 3-point combination. We're using the jab to chase him back a little bit. Let me pull you in a tiny bit. Jab, he moves, and I follow. And on this one, jab, cross, falling directly behind these. So there's jab, he shuffles back a little bit. So it'd be like bang, bang, bang. Here we go.
Jab head, jab body, hook head.
Jab, head. Jab is a jab head, jab body, hook head.
Right.
Okay, so bang, go low, I'm loaded up, come back up. So bang, bang, bang. Notice we didn't violate the rule. We're rising up with a punch that's nice, cocked, and ready to go.
Jab head, jab body, cross.
Okay. Bang, bang. We're already cocked with this rear hand. This will work as well. Got to rise up. Can you give me that one?
Yeah.
It's going to be unusual, I know. It's going to be bang.
I'm gonna do here.
Bang, bang. Again, slowly. Watch how he's feeding it. Here, here. There you go.
Jab, cross, hook.
Oh, fun. Bang, bang, bang. Okay. Jab, cross, hook.
Next, jab, cross, lead, uppercut.
Jab, cross, lead, uppercut. 1, 2, 3.
Next is jab, hook, rear hook.
Okay, bang. Cock that thing back. Here, to here. Here.
Jab, cross, kangaroo hook.
Jab, cross, kangaroo hook. So I'm going to throw that jab cross, the old 1-2. Yeah, it leaves me a little bit. Go into Floyd Patterson mode and leap into it. So we'll start at it right about here. Bang, bang, bang. Again, my sound effects.
Yeah.
One more. I'll not say bam this time.
You said bam anyway.
Sorry.
Cross, hook, cross.
This is a sweet combination. Fall in love with this thing. Use your jab to set things up. Cross, hook, cross. It's one of the sweetest of the three-point combinations. There we go.
Hook, cross, hook.
We just inverted the one we just did. Bang, bang, bang. If you can do this without saying bang and bam, you're a far cooler person than I've ever been, which I've never been. So I'd like to say bang, boom, bam. There we go. One more with the Batman sound. Buffo. There you go.
Hook, lead, uppercut, cross.
Okay, so hook. Saying them out loud for you and for the old brain. Hook. Lead, uppercut, cross. I will say it to the old brain again. Hook. Lead, uppercut, cross. Hey, a brief pause, as I mentioned, as we get deeper with these combinations, we move into the 4-point combinations and 5 points and 6 points. They will take longer to seat into your brain. Don't worry if you get to a point where you're going to go, man, I can't hold more than a 4-point combination in my head. That's rather common. When we get to linking combinations or beat punching, you'll see how it will make this process easier for you. Whenever you're working with any of these combination drills, I would advocate doing like 3 3-minute rounds of each. So maybe the first half of the first round with one of these, you're still doing that hook with this and you're saying it out loud, you're talking, you feel like Rain Man trying to get it stuck in your head. But by the time you get to the second round, you're feeling a lot smoother. In the third round, it feels right as rain. So don't worry, the learning curve goes pretty quickly within those 9 minutes total there. So we're again. Hook, lead, uppercut, cross. I retained information while I spoke to the camera. Okay.
Next is hook, lead uppercut, rear hook.
Okay. Hook, lead uppercut, rear hook.
Next is hook body, hook head, rear uppercut.
Okay, so we're going to double up on that hook. We talked about, we'll turn it this way. Hook body, hook head, and then what was it, rear uppercut? Yes, sir. So you're going to hit body, pull that about 8 to 12 inches down. Well, it's a lot more than that. It's about a yard, isn't it? Hook the body, pull, then hook the head, and then come in with that rear uppercut. So it's going to be...
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. It happens. This is real. Feeder will sometimes miss. The boxer will miss. Perfectly acceptable. As long as it's not happening every single time, right?
Yeah, that can be good. All right.
Excellent.
All right. Jab head, cross body, hook head.
Okay. So we're here. Jab high. Hook. Oh, sorry, cross body. I'm going to step outside and think about this. Here we go. We're going to jab the head, cross the body, hook the head. Is this correct?
Jab head, cross body, hook head.
Okay, I'm going to say it again to myself. Jab, cross, hook. And again, we got a natural load on this. It's okay to drop low and come back up because this hook is that natural load we keep talking about with all the weight going over that inside ball of the foot. There you go. And when I trigger it, I'm okay. It's this talking slow that throws me. Excellent.
It is jab, cross, jab.
Okay, here's what we're looking at. So the jab, cross, and usually using your jab and your cross to get you in tight. So perhaps start setting a jab cross, back to hooking as you keep trying to work into the fight. But here we've thrown the jab cross, and he's retreated on us a little bit. And then rather than us having to restart the whole combination, use your jab to follow him. So we've got bang, bang, and still get a punch out there. Don't be confused with the fact the man has left you. Good.
That's a jab, cross, cross.
Okay, now this is getting close to what we call beat punching. We're going to cover that later, but it'll come up. There'll actually be a slight pause between the first and the second cross. We got the jab, throw the cross, and the reason I would double up in the cross is I realized he looks a little wobbly. I've weakened him a little bit. He looks in trouble, so I wind up with a second power shot. So we understand where this is coming into play. So it's going to be bang, bang, wind up, because we assist is perfectly acceptable. This ain't bang, bang twice, apparently.
See if you can do it. No
I didn't
bangs.
say it.
Jab, rear uppercut, hook.
Okay. Jab, rear uppercut, and hook.
Sweet.
Now your body can feel slightly corkscrewed as you're going from here, leaning underneath it to come up, and then bring it across with this load. Really work this, and even if it feels awkward to begin with, it'll pay off for you. Again,
Sweet.
gets a lot of power out of it. Nice.
Jab, hook, cross.
Okay. Jab, hook, cross. One more time, slow. Jab, hook, cross. Here we go. And it's fun when you're doing the focus pad work. You want to Sunday punch it. Put everything about 80% of what you've got into the punches, because if you put 100% in everything, it gets to a point, occasionally what your partner can do for you, the feeder, is can pull the glove out of the way and see how much this is pulls you out of positioning. We're not going to do that right now, but when we're talking about some checking drills later on, you'll see what I mean. So there's a temptation you want to be all macho with it and throw 100%. 80% is about right because we're thinking about what the next punch is going to be, what the next punch is going to be. Don't total Sunday punch everything because you're going to get totally jerked out of position.
Next is jab, hook, rear uppercut.
Okay, jab, hook, rear uppercut.
Next, jab, hook body, hook head.
Oh, so it's a double hook. So I'll turn this around. We've got jab, hook, pull, come up high. And it's okay when we're hooking low, or it's okay to come up high because we've got this one cocked and good to go.
Lead uppercut, rear hook, lead hook.
Okay. Uppercut, hook, hook, correct? See how I'm kind of feeling these through? That's where you're going to be at the beginning of the rounds. I'm only doing about 2 or 3 repetitions of these. You don't get totally grooved into them yet. So bear with me. Oh, sorry. Bang, bang. Here we go.
Is bolo, hook, cross.
Okay, last one on the 3 points. Bolo, hook, cross. The bolo is practically, well, it's that close to being completely worthless. Kid Gavilan, though, could make this thing work for him. You still see some people try and pull this kind of thing out. So we're going to put together a combination. I'll be frank with you. They do it horribly because they have little faith in it, but for those speed demons out there, or people who play a flashy game, which is not me, you might want to use it. The bolo is basically, you've seen this, where people give you this little wind-up motion and then wing this uppercut straight up the middle. There's not a lot on that uppercut because you don't get to get the true hip cock into it. Wild Bill hip cock. I don't know. It's all the oxygen depth. I'm going into punning world right now. There's going to be a little bit of a spin, come into it. It's meant to be a distraction, but it's really not much of anything. But again, just for historical sake, for accuracy, and Kid Gavilan, who was a great boxer, he had the speed to make it work. One more time, give you the bolo, then a hook, do a cross. You'll notice I'll put a lot more faith into my hook, into my cross, than I do this. So we're here's a little bit of bolo, up, here, here. So you see this could be 1 rotation, 2, whatever you think's working for you. Again, it's not my cup of tea, but for those of you who love that sort of thing, bam, bam. Kind of crammed on that one, didn't I? Yes. Get the idea. We put that one at the very end of the 3 points because it's not my cup of tea. And you also see it's pretty much worthless to have to do that kind of flashiness. But as we know, a great fighter made it work for them. Maybe it's for you too. We're up to 4-point combinations now. And of course, at this point, we know it means 4 punches at a time. This is where the entropy really starts coming into play. When you 2-point combinations, that's a snap. 3 points are okay. Once you're giving yourself time to groove all these into your neural net. What we've been doing is blowing through them so quickly. They start overlapping in our minds, and hopefully, it doesn't come across that way to you. When you're watching this sort of thing, you're going to take one combination, go work that for the three-minute rounds, and they'll come together. You're going to find when you start running into 4-point combinations and 5 points and 6 points, they get harder and harder to hold into your head. But what you're trying to do is just challenge yourself that you can go that high with combinations, and eventually you'll get to where the 4 points and the 5 points and the 6 points are even easier. You're going to ask, in case you're wondering why we don't go 7 points and above, because really, the entropy, it just starts falling apart. You spend so much time trying to think about what the combination is that your punching form goes to hell. So again, I'm explaining that as we start into this, you see us doing a lot of repeating back and forth. Mitch reads it, he says it to me, I repeat it twice, I confirm with him, and then we go to work with it. It might be that same case when you're first moving around with this combination in the gym. The first round might be a lot of talking to get you through it. It's okay, that's your coaching points, and then you start really turning on the speed thereafter. So enough yakking, I was just stalling because I know we're coming up to 4 points and ready to get intellectually snubbed. What we got?
We have jab, cross, lead body hook, rear uppercut.
Okay, so jab, cross, lead body hook, rear uppercut. So feel it through. And you see, that's perfectly acceptable to feel it through when you were going through that. This is exactly how it would be.
Or you want to hit
You want
me?
to bang the body? I'll bang the body.
Okay.
So bang. It's how you're going to be playing that in the gym. You got to walk it through and feel comfortable with it. I do not want you to start out just hear a combination and think you know it, and just start throwing your hands wildly. You got to know where the hell you're going with these things, and the best way is to start feeling it through. It's a sense, kind of a warm up for your brain and the muscles to find where they're supposed to be going on each one, and then you can start picking it up. Get the idea.
Next is cross, hook, cross, hook the body.
Okay, so I got a cross, got a hook, got a cross, and I hook the body. Now notice since I've just hit low, I'm gonna have to come out at the end of this. So let's look at this again. Cross, hook, hook the body. Is that correct?
That's it.
Okay, so come out low because I'm not standing back up in front of him with another punch.
Cross, hook, cross to body, lead uppercut.
Okay, cross, hook, cross the body, lead uppercut.
Let's see if I can remember that.
Sure thing. Here we go. 1, 2. Cross, hook, bang, bang.
Sheesh.
Cross, hook. But you see, it gets where it's confusing for your feeder, it's confusing for the opponent. So, bang, bang,
Hook.
hook, bang, bang.
Okay.
Cross, hook.
All right, next is jab, hook, cross, hook.
Okay, jab, hook, cross hook. So we're hooking off that jab. So it's basically a 2-point and followed by the cross hook. So 2, 3, 4, jab, hook, cross hook, and then sweet.
All right, we are a jab, lead body hook, hook head, rear uppercut.
Okay, so you got a double hook in it. We'll turn that one again. We've been double hooking all over the place. You already know how to do this, but we got jab, hook body, hook head. Remember, we got that pull load on it. It's a rear uppercut.
Rear
Get that
uppercut.
correct? So here, remember, here, pull back to here. We don't have to do that full recovery. Back up top, then turn the rear uppercut. That's okay. No.
You knocked me out.
That's a hell of a video.
There we go.
There you go. Oh, that was a jab to the body. Those of you at home, I threw that in so you can see. That's what I meant to do.
See
That's
how
what I meant to
my
do.
terrible feed threw you off so
Yeah.
bad you punched me for real.
Don't cut that either. That's live. This is the kind of thing that happens right here. So,
There we go.
good.
On the jab, cross to body, hook, rear body hook.
Okay, jab, cross the body, hook head, body hook, and I got to exit. So, 1, 2, 3. So look at this. We talked about up, down, up. This embodies this with this combination. So here, we're using a straight shot to get to the inside, to set it up. straight shot to the inside, angled shot, go down low again, and get out of there. So, jab, cross, hook, hook. And out of there.
Next is jab, cross, lead shovel hook body, rear shovel hook body.
Remember, the shovel hook is the punch that splits the difference between the hook and the uppercut. So the horizontal angle, the vertical angle is right here along the 45, and it's meant to eat up on the body. So again, we start out with the jab cross, cut those high, and then here at this angle, and at this angle. Obviously, we're looking to eat into the short ribs.
Joe Gans combo.
Oh, okay. Joe Gans. Great fighter, Joe Gans. If you can, seek out some of the old fight films of this guy play the game. Very, very fast. I'm going to do a poor version of it because I'm not nearly as quick as he is. A few people are. We've got the double jab high, then jab to the body, cock that thing back with the hook so you come back high. Again, thing of beauty when the man threw it. So jab, slide step in, then take this down low, then right back on top with that hook. Sweet stuff from Joe. Not nearly sweet as he is, but play with that.
All right, it's hooks and uppercuts. Lead hook, rear hook, lead uppercut, rear uppercut.
Okay, so we got hook, hook, bang, bang. Nice one to
stack
play
these
with.
for-
Sure thing. So again, we got lead hook, lead uppercut, rear uppercut. Here we go. Remember, get some nice recovery. Bringing those hands back into the face. Make sure we're just not throwing tough man here and here, leaving the head exposed and all these shots. It's easy once you start getting for there to be some natural entropy in your technique. The higher you get in these point combinations, you might look good at 2 points and 3 points, but there's a tendency to get from here to here, start leaving things open. Might even catch me doing this too. As the combination material moves on. In that case, please email me and let me know the error of my ways. So here. Okay, ready?
Yep.
Here we go.
Next is lead uppercut, hook, rear uppercut, rear hook.
Okay, so we're going uppercut, and hook off the same arm, rear uppercut, hook off the same arm. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Is hook, lead uppercut, rear hook, rear uppercut.
Oh, you have to say that again. Let me walk through it slow. Say it aloud.
Hook, lead uppercut, and rear hook, rear uppercut. So it's like kind of the backwards.
I'm reversing that.
Yeah.
Got you there. So, all you aging fighters out there, you see what you have to look forward to? Okay, trust me, again, you put this in the 3-minute rounds, the smoothness comes in. The problem is, no excuses for being old and stupid, but the problem comes in trying to cram this much of a menu of material through your heads and only letting yourself play it with 2 or 3 repetitions at a time. It's repetitions throughout those 3-minute rounds that really builds the continuity and the skills here. And with that said, I totally forgot where we're at. Now I'm doing the hook, uppercut, hook,
uppercut.
and uppercut.
Nice. Is hook,
Say it slow. Here we go.
hook, rear uppercut, lead uppercut, rear hook.
What is wrong with that combination? Not that it's perfectly correct. It's just the further we get into this, the more I feel like taking a nap. So you see we're throwing hooks as the bookends on this, putting the uppercuts in the center of it. Bang, 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 bang. Here we go. A little bit of patty cake there, but we still pulled it out. Lead uppercut,
Rear hook,
rear hook.
hook body, rear hook body.
Okay, so I'm going bang.
Man, you're making me nuts. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4.
And to be honest with you, at the beginning, we'll play a little bit of this one live. In the beginning, we would learn this. It would be exactly like this. We would take this off the combination call sheet, and it would be this whole both of you have a little bit of a learning curve to try and figure out what the hell the body is being trained to do. And you notice there'll be a natural inclination as you feel comfortable, start going a little bit faster each time out. That's how it's going to work. And then by the time you get to the end of those three-minute rounds I keep hectoring you about, it all comes together. Work those hard, because what's next, you're gonna your brain's going to fall apart. We start running into 5-point combinations and the 6 points. And if at this point you already feel some entropy when you're working them, don't worry. When we'll show you linking combinations and beat punching to show you how to make things a little bit more bite-sized and easier to assimilate into your training. We're up to 5-point combinations, so we know this could be 5 punches at a time. We also know the entropy level is bound to be high. In a few minutes, we're going to be talking about how to do, some sections following this. Well, again, I keep promising about the beat punching concept and the linking combinations concept to make building combinations a bit easier for you. And now, since we're up to 5 and 6, is how we would usually build combinations. If you were to come to me and come to us and train, we would do what's called walk-ups, and that's how we're going to approach through these remaining the 5 and the 6-point combinations. Because right now, Mitch and I have been having too much fun, kind of giggling, laughing, and like a couple of idiots who are not really 41, and perhaps giving you the idea, not giving you the correct idea of how you can build these combinations. Here's how we would work it with a walk-up. So our first 5-point combination, the first punch on it was a jab.
Jab.
You would just actually spend a whole round running around feeding that jab. Just constantly moving, throwing that jab out there. Notice I'm not putting everything into it right now because we're talking about it, get the whole walk-up concept. Then next, he would give me what's the next point on it?
Cross.
Cross. So we know we're up to a jab cross. We got a whole round playing, bang, bang, running around. Again, notice I'm relaxed with it right now. If we're actually playing the drill, I'm banging these as hard as I can, but right now we're talking about a whole round of running around with this jab cross. It gives the fighter a chance to figure out what he's having to feel his body do, gives the chance for the feeder, even though he's calling it, get an idea of what the best feed is going to be for him. The third one is?
Jab cross, lead uppercut.
Okay, jab cross, lead uppercut, whole round of bang, bang, bang. So you notice we're going from just a single punch to a 2-point combination, a 3-point combination. What's the 4th point?
It is jab cross, lead uppercut, cross.
Okay. Lead uppercut, cross. There's a 4th point. And you see, he's got a smoother walk-up to it by playing the game this way. And again, we're still not doing complete justice because it would be complete rounds to get here. So again, and what's next?
Next is the jab cross, lead uppercut, cross, hook.
There we go. Still, the same idea is going to work for you. Stay with me here. Jab, cross, lead uppercut, cross, hook. Get the idea? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Feeling smoother that way.
The next combination is a hook.
Opens with a hook. This is going to play the same way with the walk-up. Just move around with the hook. Not everything you got into it. Kind of pay attention about a third of your speed and your power, feeling where it's at. The next point,
Cross.
hook cross, feeling yourself get that pivot over the lead ball of the foot, thinking about what's going on. Third point,
Is lead uppercut.
now we're a 3-point combination on our way to 5. What's next?
That's it. Hook, cross, lead uppercut, rear hook.
Okay, so correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so I'm going lead hook, cross, lead uppercut, rear hook. See, that's why you're doing the walk up on it. Take nice slow. Sorry, I opened up with a jab on that. That was my bad on it. Yeah, so
All right.
and the 5th point.
And the 5th point on that one is a lead body hook.
Lead hook to the body means we're going to have to leave at the end of it. So we're going to hook, cross, uppercut, hook the body, and out. Take it slow, feel it, let it evolve naturally.
Terrible.
And by the time, I'm talking and playing at the same time, kids. Don't do this. Don't drink and drive either. Here we go. Here we go. By the time you get to the end of this, sorry, we're going to have better flow going with it. We can't spend enough time doing each of these 3-minute rounds right now, because that means, imagine how long this is going to be. The running time's already out the window. We're going to make sure that we're totally substantive with what's going on, let alone the screw up. Jab, cross, hook, hook, cross.
Yep, jab, cross, hook, hook, cross.
Okay, so just have that jab, 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 jab. I'll say that again. Jab, cross, hook, hook,
Jab,
cross.
cross.
Jab. Then we got cross, 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 jab, cross. Then come back a little bit. Jab, cross, hook, jab, cross, hook, jab, cross, hook. Now this is a double hook without me pulling down the waist because it's the same level. Bang, bang, bang. Same bang, even at slow motion. And this end of the cross. So you get the idea. Jab, cross, hook, hook, cross. It's double on the hook. You still get that 8 to 10 inch pullback, but you're not going down with it.
Next one is jab, jab, cross, hook, cross.
Okay, so we know we got the jab. Whole round right here. We got a whole round of double jabbing. Remember, 2 punches, not a double jab on it. I mean, a vibration jab. What's the 3rd point?
Cross.
Okay, double jab, cross. Next point?
Hook.
Okay, double jab, cross, hook. And what's next?
Ends with a cross.
Ends with a cross. Double jab, cross, hook, cross. Hey, you get the idea. Is there another one?
That's it.
That's the 5 points for now. But you see how walking through a single punch, 2-point combination, 3, 4, on to the 5. 6 are next. So hold on to your horses.